We will start with the consent agenda. All the following items which concern reports and items of routine nature normally approved at AHA meetings will be approved by one vote unless any trustee desires to have a separate vote on any or all these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and action on the following items. Minutes of the regular trustee meeting, April 26, 2022. Minutes of the special finance meeting, April 26, 2022. Minutes of the regular finance meeting, May 17, 2022. And a check report, April 9th through May 8, 2022.
I move we approve the consent agenda items A through D. Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Jay Randalls to approve the consent agenda as it is presented. Roll call vote, please.
Jasper?
Yes.
Hannaford?
Yes.
Randalls?
Yes.
Simon? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Okay. Next is the CEO's report. Candace.
All right. Looking quickly over my report that you have in your book. Recently, Gentry Lancaster came back to us as a nurse. We're excited to have Gentry back. HR has been working on our new employee orientation process. We feel like this is a very important process that we've never gotten really good at. So we are trying to perfect that process. First impressions are everything, and so that team is working hard to put a new process in place for onboarding new employees. And also, HR has been working on all of our job descriptions, getting them updated, and we'll implement those next month. In your snapshot that I sent you earlier today, I'm sorry it was late. I was on vacation last week. A terrible excuse, I know. But just gave you a little update what's going on with Meditech. I sent you two different things, or I had attached and I did not print that off. But in your email, it showed, Chris, do you have that with you by chance? How much? Would you go print that off real quick? I don't have it with me. I showed you the different
20,000.
prices with Meditech as a service. Going with Meditech, Meditech as a service means they're going to provide all the support that staff needs for that product. Currently, that's not the case. With the software we have with Meditech now, they were to train super users. Well, that training did occur early on. Those super users have since, left us without staff that were super users trained by Meditech to use that product. So it became very challenging to service that product. So we are at the point now where we are needing to upgrade. Would like to go to Meditech Expanse, and so we have collected all the numbers for that. Chris is delivering. So currently what we're spending right now is close to $20,000 a month. We had looked at another option, going with a hospital and using them to support the product. We felt like that would be a good option because we would be essentially copying what they're using, customizing it to fit Share Medical Center, but knowing that those bills were coming off clean and they would be helping support it. That option was around $53,000. Meditech as a service is going to be $39,000, and we feel like that is the best option to go at this point. I think, as I had said last time that we talked, Duncan had lost 8, I believe, IT staff members, and that's a hard, 1 or 2 IT staff members is hard to replace, let alone 8, and they didn't feel like they could do us a good job by having that kind of gap in their services. So we went back to the Meditech as a service option and got them to bring the price down even further than what we had initially talked about. And we can't get it any lower. She's assured me that that is as low as they could go.
And that 39,000 also includes their iCloud
Yes,
storage.
yes.
So right now, we don't have that. We have servers that we have to replace, and we go spend $500,000 every 5 years on. So I mean, that needs to be taken into consideration, that part of that 39 also is your storage.
Yes.
So it doesn't make up for all that, but it's also an enhanced.
So that, I think we had talked about this as well. It also includes what we don't have right now is the mirror image backup. The, what do you call it, Jay? Redundancy. Yeah, the redundancy. And this does include redundancy. So that if you get hacked, you can restore back to a, point in time, if it gets corrupt or whatever. What have you. So anyway, that's, we'll be talking more about that over the next week or so, and so be thinking about what questions you have and what questions we need to get answered, and would like to bring that up soon to vote on that. They have us penciled in for a January implementation start with a go live of July 2023. So we would start pretty much just as soon as we signed the contract. We would start gathering information. They'd start interviewing managers and start down that road of getting all the pieces put in place to start a January implementation. Okay. Be happy to answer any questions you have now or you think about. I'll be getting in touch with you over the next week to see if I can answer any other questions, okay? Revenue cycle review. Chris and I have a weekly meeting set up with Angie Carmen and Deb Kozlowski to go over that project and keep it moving forward. Chris, do you have anything you want to add with that?
No, I think so far, I've been very happy with Angie and Deb. You can tell they're working hard. They're meeting with True Ridge, asking a lot of questions from True Ridge, asking for a lot of reports from True Ridge, so that they can kind of sink their teeth into what they can do now to kind of turn everything around. And then once they get this initial, kind of the initial stages through, then we'll kind of start looking a little bit deeper. But I think they've already found some of the unbilled and what happens once it leaves here and goes there to True Bridge, of some things that they can have found that can help kind of get bills out the door quicker than what we're getting now. So no, and found some other things that we hadn't really thought of that I think have been really good.
Good deal. As far as the surgery team and talking with Dr. Miller, I had him go back to the drawing table. The first proposal that he gave me was not feasible. It was just too much money, too much risk involved. So we had a conversation and he was willing to take another look at it. And so I hope to hear from him in the next few weeks to see if we can work something out for a general surgery meeting. CRNA coverage, Jerry has decided he's not ready to retire quite yet. So we're glad to hear that, but also we'll probably be looking for some options because he won't, if we do the in-reach thing with the ortho, he won't be able to cover all of that. So we'd be looking for somebody to help with that. Anything else? The DNP plan of correction, they have asked for a couple, we've been around a couple of times on clarifications and we're waiting for their final approval on those. I have a good candidate to fill the open ER position. I talked to him tomorrow morning and I'm excited about that. It's actually a guy I grew up with. So I'm hoping that will work out. And then last and not least would be Angelica starts on Monday. So we're excited to get her started. You guys have any questions for me?
When you say general surgery, help me out. What does that?
The stuff that we currently do, nothing particularly, not like ortho, like we've never done before, but just general surgeries like appendectomies, hernia repairs, EG colonoscopies, those kind of things. Just general surgical procedures. Now, if we do get this worked out with him, he will do things that we haven't done before. He's just more aggressive in that manner. I'm hopeful that we can work something out that the way that he had proposed it to begin with was just a huge financial risk for us. We were going to be out all of the expenses up front, and he would be here whether he had patients to see or not, and that just, we can't afford that. So, anyway, other questions?
If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve and accept the Share Medical Center written report for May 31st, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Hannaford, a second by Dr. Simon, to accept the Share Medical Center written report for May 31st, 2022. Roll call vote, please.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Gasper.
Yes. Candace, thank you. Next, CFO's report. Chris?
Okay. I'll start off by saying, Friday, we sent off some financials in an email. We were trying to get them out. Today, I found an error, so these look the bottom line looks quite a bit different from your email. I think on the email it had about a $500,000 loss, which kind of sparked what we were trying to figure out and find that something clearly was wrong. And today, kind of found out what had happened. So that's why April now shows about a $468,000 profit. And a lot of that is, if you look at April, for the most part, March to April is very similar. There's not a big variance in any category you look at except for bad debt. You'll see it's a negative number there. How that bad debt number shows up is we have an allowance for bad debt account, and that's based off the percentages of our AR. So AR, once it gets so far out, percentages of what you will collect and what you plan to expect to collect. In that account, obviously when your AR goes down, then that allowance for the bad debt's going to go down as well. So part of that was in April we did collect on a lot of accounts. We could see that money was coming in, our AR was going down. Some of it would have to do with write-offs, but I think a lot of it also had to do with just collecting on some accounts that have been out there for a while. The other side of that too is we had a lot of accounts that with working with BKD, some accounts that had still been sitting in, say, self-pay bucket when they should have been flipped over to our collections agency. So there are a lot of accounts that were flipped from a payer category to essentially bad debt so that we can start trying to take more action to collect on those items. So that's why this number is so large in the opposite direction. Those two things played into that. This is not a cash entry. This is not anything to say that we had $500,000 worth of cash that just all of a sudden showed up. But it's just a combination of the two so that everybody kind of understand that. I know we have that bad debt number every month. I don't know that I've really ever talked about it. So that's kind of how it works out. It's based off percentages of what you expect to collect. And with our AR coming down, then that number obviously has to start going in the opposite direction so that we can get that allowance where it's supposed to be. That's kind of the big number. We can go back and look. Everything else, you can see the AR went down. It decreased by $595,000, so that obviously plays into what I was explaining to you with the bad debt, why that had to happen. AP for the month, $450,000, right there in line. The gross patient revenue, $36,000 decrease from the prior month, so not much of a change there. You can see the total patient days in April, 66 to 62 in March. Office visits, 1378 in April to 1516 in March. So, like I mentioned, when you look through the income statement and want to compare it from March to April, most everything is kind of right in line. So that's there really wasn't a whole lot different from month to month. BKD, you look at the gross days, the unbilled billed, you can see that the billed days went down by 11 days. Our unbilled went up 4 days. That unbilled category is where BKD is kind of focusing a lot of their energy right now to try and get turned around. You like to see the billed came down 11 days, that's good. But that unbilled is where we're really trying to kind of clean up, because that should be the easiest thing to clean up and the quickest. And once we get there, then we'll move on to bill. And some of the bill will kind of take care of itself once the unbilled is figured out too. So. Outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot, like I said, not a whole lot different from kind of prior months. So, if you guys have questions on the bad debt, anything I explained there, or anything else?
How do we feel like it is going with TrueBridge from the standpoint of, because I'm still looking here at unbilled is not changing.
That unbilled is a couple of positions, more than two. There's about 3 positions that are factored in there.
So,
And that's a big part of it too. I mean, if you have positions that are a month behind, then, if you look at it that way, if you have a position that's a month behind, then everything they do in April is sitting unbilled, which would play a large part in that.
2 of them are going away, and one of them I've told them, it's one of the hospitalists, I said, we don't want him if he's not going to do his documentation. Like it's pulling teeth to get it out of him. The other 2, I can hold their checks. And you're not, are you paying them?
No, we haven't gotten paid. We haven't paid.
Okay. It's the only teeth we have is not to pay them.
Right. As far as that, along with the unbilled, kind of some of that goes back to coding. So we're working with our coder to see if there's anything else. Part of whenever they first came on, they found that we do not have a backup for our coder. She's been able to handle everything. We've never had any issues. They'd like to pull somebody in just to maybe kind of help get everything cleaned up and to where they're happy with, which we are in the process of getting a backup for her. She's going to be out on leave, we'll be here anyway. So what we might do is we're going to bring this person on and see if they can kind of start working part-time whenever BKD wants an extra set of eyes to come in and start helping with
So
that.
that she's familiar with the process
Yes.
when our coder is gone
right.
on maternity leave, whatever, so that it's not, that's what we got into last time. We hired a locums to cover for her, but it was,
That was TrueBridge person.
it just didn't work
Yeah.
because when she came back from maternity leave, she ended up
Clean it.
cleaning it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just from an internal control standpoint, you don't have a backup, you're gonna get deep on that.
Yeah.
Something could happen where you get burned. So, I mean, it's a good idea and good recommendation they had anyway that we probably should have already had in place, but that'll help kind of get an extra set of eyes on it so that if there is too much for our one, then she has some help whenever she needs it. But that's kind of, that unbilled is where most all the energy is being focused right now.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, we'll move on to the nursing home. Nursing home, their cash balance is still sitting pretty well. They've done a good job of not kind of holding on to that money pretty well. They've got $412,000, and then they also have another $400,000 or $500,000 in a refurbishment account that was COVID money that they can use for whatever they see deemed necessary to use it for. AR went up a little bit in the month of April. Went put up 167,000. I think some of that has to do with, I know there was some crossover from April to May when some bills, especially Medicaid bills, were collected. That are still showing April, and I know they received beginning of May. So I know part of that issue will be resolved just beginning of May. AP was a little bit higher. We held off paying some, kind of slowed down some bills towards the end of April. So that's kind of why that sits at 110,000, and typically it's not near that high. But nothing that we're worrying about. Revenue decreased from the prior month, which you can see from their patient days. Went from 1170 in March to 1053. And that's something Kelly and I talked about last week, that they're kind of working on, maybe trying to get some more marketing out there so they can get some more, get their beds filled a little bit. Nursing home and homestead both kind of having that issue right now. So that's kind of just a waiting game to see what referrals they can get for the nursing home and get marketing out there for the homestead. Their net income was 137,000. That's kind of skewed a little bit because we don't have a homestead cash specific account. The nursing home and homestead, they share their account in community. So what happened was whenever they bought the van, you're showing as money that might have come out of their actual expense account, but then the money came back over and was deposited in the nursing home. We took money out of their refurbishment account, paid it out of their main account, but then replenished that account with refurbishment account money. In doing that, that means you're receiving in $40,000 that you just spent, and that shows up as other revenue. So that kind of skews your revenue by about $40,000 on their side, and then on the homestead side, you'll see they're about $40,000 the opposite direction, just because we don't have a specific, a dedicated cash account for nursing home and for homestead. So it kind of skews their numbers a little bit. But outside of that, their salary was down, their operating expenses were down a little bit. So and they have a large, if you look at their Medicare contractual number, like I said, anytime that number is negative, that means they collected more money than what was expected to collect. And in April, $131,000 of contractual is, I can't really explain it, but it's not a bad problem to have. We're kind of looking into if there's some charges that we have set up incorrectly, but like I said, that kind of helps when you have $131,000 on the good side of the contractual. Anybody have? Well, when you look at the 2-year comparison, you can see how much the Medicare their contractual numbers are for the year. Typically they didn't really have any, but now with the new system, they're actually able to track this a little bit better. And you can see what that is. And that may be something where in the future, kind of like a charge master review, where you go in and start looking at your charges to see if maybe we should be charging more than what we are, if we're obviously getting paid more than what we're charging. So.
Yeah, I think this is the first year that we've even seen those contractuals really.
Yeah, in the old accounting system, there was no way to track contractuals. It was a basic accounting system. It wasn't tied to their billing. It had nothing to do with a nursing home or a hospital or anything. It was just a basic accounting system. So now that they have it, they can actually see what's going on with their contractuals and then what they need to maybe look at updating and changing in the future. Any questions on nursing home? Okay, homestead, like we were talking about, they're kind of hurting for some people right now. They've had some people leave. So their census is down, which would explain why their revenue, inpatient revenue is down for the month. Quite a bit down from any of the prior months, unless you want to go back to November. Like I said, Kelly and I talked, they're going to work on doing some marketing to see if they can up their census a little bit. And then you can see on their the other expenses line, of $39,377. That's where the van would have come into play, where they would have cut the check for the van, and why they show that negative 41,000 right there. So that kind of shows you the other side of what I was talking about when we were looking at the nursing home.
Was that pretty much all that?
Yes. You know, we have some, like, you know, you look at environment and see that 5,000 here and there, but for the most part, that was all that was the van. Which we knew was gonna happen, and they had the money, so it's, like I said, I know it looks worse on paper than what it really is. But a lot of it just has to do with the two accounts, sharing the accounts in community. Any questions on things there?
Any other questions for Chris? Not, Chris, thank you. Next item is the Medical Staff Executive Committee.
Dr. Burke is actually on vacation this week.
Okay. So there's 3 items under credentialing, unless there was anything that needed to be reported from the Med Staff Committee. So the first item is to reappoint to Kersey staff Jis Matthew, MD.
I make a motion to reappoint to courtesy staff Jis Matthew, MD.
Second.
We have a motion by Jay Randall, a second by Dr. Hannaford to reappoint to Kersey staff Jis Matthew, MD. Roll call vote, please.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Jasper,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
The next item is to reappoint to Kersey staff Nicholas O'Bright.
I make a motion to reappoint to courtesy staff Nicholas O'Bright.
Second.
Must be on probation.
That, same guys, right? Sorry,
Yes.
I got distracted.
It's easy to do.
I have a motion by Jay Randall, second by Dr. Hannaford to reappoint to Kersey staff Nicholas O'Bright. Roll call vote, please.
Simon. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Jasper,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls.
Yes.
Okay, and the next item is to reappoint to Allied staff Gerald Darger, CRNA.
I make a motion to reappoint to allied staff Gerald Darger, CRNA.
Second.
3 for 3. I have a motion by Jay Randalls, second by Dr. Hannaford to reappoint to Allied staff Gerald Darger, CRNA. Roll call vote, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Jasper,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon. Yes.
Okay, there's not, unless I missed it, there was nothing for coffee, correct? It's not the note for coffee. Under improvement to patient care, there is the contract review. Everything was good there. Anybody have any questions for that? The next item is discussion and action to approve or disapprove the med staff bylaws, rules, and regulations.
Make a motion that we approve the med staff bylaws, rules, and regulations.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Dr. Simon to approve the med staff bylaws, rules, and regulations. Roll call vote, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Jasper,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
I just will say something really quick. One of the biggest differences in the med staff, this time, these were updated by a law firm that SSM had all of us affiliates go together and have them write bylaws that were particular to all of us. We had to fill out a questionnaire, and so this covered everything. Something that was different this time that the mid-levels are happy about, they actually have voting rights this time. They were non-voting members in all the years past. They are able to vote now, they just cannot hold office. So that's, I just wanted to, they're happy about that.
Okay, the next item is the discussion and action to approve or disapprove the TB risk assessment for 2022. Do you have anything on that?
No.
Okay.
Unchanged.
I make a motion that we approve the TB risk assessment for 2022.
Second. He got there first. I defer.
Well, it can't be just these two. Next one's yours.
Okay.
I had a motion by Dr. Brown, a second by Mr. Bowman, to approve the TB risk assessment for 2022. Roll call vote, please.
Gaspard,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Okay. The next item is the discussion and action to approve or disapprove the revisions report dated 4/25 of 22. Anything on that?
It's just newer tweaked policies and procedures.
That one doesn't need- That one doesn't, that one. So all these procedures, everything was good, everything on the revisions, we just have to approve it.
Right. Any policy or procedure, I know we go over this, but just as a reminder, anything on that list is a new policy or procedure or one that has had enough revisions that it needed to be noted. Any of those have to go through med staff and the board, or we get in trouble. So that's why you see them month after month.
Does anybody have any questions in regards to that?
If you'd like to sit down and read them, I'll be happy to pull them up for you. It's really cool because our employees now have access to all policies and procedures on SQSS. That was one thing that we did. That was one of our 2022 goals, was that they would have electronic access to policies and procedures, so they're not accidentally pulling something old, not able to find it when they need to. So that's what that is.
Make a motion, we approve the revisions report 4/25/2022.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bowman, a second by Dr. Hannaford, to approve the revisions report dated 4/25 of 22. Roll call vote, please.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Randalls,
Yes.
Simon. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Gaspard.
Yes. Okay, next up is the Sheriff Convalescent Home report. Kelly?
It's kind of funny given the April report at the very last day of May, but here we go. You can see the statistics there, and Chris kind of hit on some of these. But our patient days have been down. We did have 2 new admissions in May so far this month, and well, we'll have 2 by the end of the month also. But, so we are starting to see a little bit of an increase in census again. But we have had a couple deaths that kind of, balance all that out. We've been working on a couple things. One is survey preparedness. So we participated with the Leading Age in a webinar series, and I think a 6-part series that dealt with different aspects of our state survey, our routine state survey, which we haven't had since 2018. So we're going on 4 years without a survey, that, with the exception of some infection control surveys through the pandemic. And we're kind of anxious to have that, anxious to have them here and get that process completed again, but a little bit nervous because it has been so long since any of our staff participated in a survey. So we're trying to get prepared. Nursing homes have more regulations than any other industry on the planet, so we're going to meet all of those expectations, I hope so. Anyway, things are really not going too bad though, so I expect our survey this next time, whenever it happens, to be considerably better than it was in 2018. Our biggest challenge right now, and one of the barriers to really going out and recruiting more business has been staffing. I could probably hire 25 people right now, depending on what position they're looking for. I need people in the kitchen, I need people in housekeeping, and obviously need direct care providers. So a lot of the reason our census is where it is partially due to trying to maintain a good staffing ratio where we can, take good care of the people that we have. So we are recruiting. We do need staff, and so we're competitive in our, pay and benefits. So hopefully there's folks out there that are looking and are going to answer one of our ads, and we'll get some people hired. But that said, we're running. I didn't look at it last month, but when I looked at it in April, we were within a 65-mile radius of Alva. We were sitting at number 4 for highest direct care staff, and I think that was about 18 nursing facilities in that range. So, we're staffed pretty good. We don't really have a way of measuring acuity of our competitors, but our acuity's been a little bit higher than normal. And so I don't anticipate that changing. I expect that long-term care acuity is always going to be on the increase and not the other way around. So that's kind of where we're at with the nursing home. I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Any questions for Kelly? I did notice that there was like 6 of those bird scooters on the corner. Is that something that your staff or your patients have been going out on?
The residents haven't been using the bird scooters, but sometimes the staff do.
Okay.
I have a couple employees that walk, so
All right.
sometimes they'll hop on one of those instead of walking.
One of our Dr. Metros comes up here, what's that? I think he called me one day or sent me a video. He sent me a video and he's cackling in this video. He sees these scooters sitting there and he's like, "You guys are genius to put those outside of a nursing home to drive business to your hospital." It was pretty funny. He thought he was pretty good.
Any other questions for Kelly? If not, Kelly, homestead report?
Like Chris mentioned, census is a little bit down there. We are going to be working on some marketing activities. We have historically we've advertised outside of the Alva area and Enid and other communities as well. And we're still doing that, but we may look at increasing our advertising in all of those, both close to home and a little bit further out. Homestead's kind of is a unique type of facility. There's not a lot of independent living options in northwest Oklahoma or southern Kansas. So I think if we get the word out there again, it's in great shape. That facility is awesome. The people that are leaving are leaving for good reasons. So it's just, we need people to come in behind them. It's not that there's any lack of service, it's not anything like that. There's just, personal reasons for the ones that are leaving, and they're understandable. So, I think they're working on increasing their entertainment calendar. The pandemic's pretty well wrapping up, so getting some entertainers back out to sing and dance or whatever for the residents out there, which is something that was always really popular prior to the pandemic. They did get the new vehicle purchased, the van purchased, and it's been loved by the residents that are using it, so I'm glad of that. I think that I know they're working with the city on some still trying to get the pond finished. The pond contractor was, I guess contracted with, almost over a year ago. It was prior to the pandemic, and the schedule for that person is just not, I guess we haven't been a priority, so we're working on making that a priority for that contractor so that we can get that completed. The liner's purchased, we just need somebody to put it in. And so we're working on that. And also the northeast end of the parking lot is going to need to be tore out and put back in. It's had some undercutting with erosion underneath it, so there's not anything under the very northeast corner to support the concrete. So we can't park there. We got it coned off, but that's on the list of things to do as well.
It'd been nice to have that in before the rain.
The liner?
Yeah.
Right?
Any other questions for Kelly? If not, Kelly, anything foundation?
I would like to, I'm privileged and honored to report that the scholarship recipients for 2022 were one from Alva and one from Burlington. We had 9 applicants altogether. I think it was 9. And anyway, Caden Slater here in Alva and Nancy Klippenstein from Burlington were our winners. One's wanting to go into physical therapy, the other's wanting to go into nursing. So,
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Anything from St. Anthony's that you know?
Did you hear from?
Okay. Greg, City Council report?
It's been so long, I don't even remember for sure now. To be honest with you. We tore up the street downtown, that project started. Of course, now it's raining, so it is stretching out. We have started the park board, what's it called?
Parks and Recreation Commission.
Parks and Recreation Commission, so that'll be firing up. I haven't had a committee meeting, so I can't think of anything else. That's
We did approve an interim attorney.
interim attorney, we got that. And we've had a couple of interviews on city manager, but nothing has really been decided. There's always been, we're kind of shooting for 100% approval by the committee, it's what I understand, and it hasn't been there. Some been, we really want to do the city manager right. So right now, it's divided between Kelly is doing the HR stuff, Brian Miller is taking care of the day-to-day. For now, I haven't heard of any issues, so about all I know. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. Greg, thank you. Under the chairman's report, speaking of those attorneys, somebody thinks they need to retire. How many years have you served?
Since
1998, 24.
24 years. Rick has served as our board attorney, and he's done a fabulous job, but next meeting will be his last meeting. So we will need to be in search of somebody to try to replace him. So
Lawyers can.
we do appreciate everything he
Not like you.
has done for us, and it will be, even though he's being modest about it, it will be hard to replace him. Under new business, if you will actually turn back to other materials, there is a copy of our audit. It came in today. The Finance Committee had gotten to see a draft of it, but they didn't know if or when they would have the final report. Well, we got her. Chris, do you want to go over, you want me to hit some high points?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing here that you're kind of looking for is their opinion, you know, that we presented fair and all material respects the financial position of the Alva Hospital Authority and the changes in its financial position and its cash flows for the years in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. I mean, that's, anytime you have an audit, if you have that as the opinion, then you know it was clean, there were no big issues, they were satisfied with how everything went. So that's always a plus. You know, let's see, if you go back, talk about anything that they might have had any issues with, you know, internal control, kind of like what I talked about earlier with the coder. We have one coder, we don't really have a backup. That's always going to be a topic they're going to bring up. Us being a rural hospital, I mean, really rural anything in Alva, you're going to have to probably run into that just because you have a lot of people wearing a lot of different hats. So that internal control is a little bit more difficult out here, but it wasn't anything that they were concerned about, just some things that we can maybe touch on and try and clean up, to get better at. Yeah, with our provider relief funds, that kind of, we're in that in-between where we still have some provider relief funds, but we've already used some as well, so you're kind of hitting between two different years of recognizing revenue from provider relief funds that will be off the books by the end of next year. But no, I mean, for the most part, everything went well. We didn't have any major issues or major findings.
So, you know, typically we have our audit back and we're voting on it usually in January. This year, because of COVID, for the prior year, we had received funds. We are a critical access. There was an additional audit that we had to do to make sure that we weren't double dipping. And so because of that then took this part longer. But like you said, everything came out good from the financial end. There were some journal entries that they had to just change which side that went to. And then the other part that he was talking about was the controls. And like Chris said, anytime you're in a rural area and you don't have that large number of employees, even though we feel like we have a lot of employees, but in certain areas you don't. You're going to have that, and that's not something that's just shared medical, that's all their small hospitals that they have issued. He did go on to show us some slides and some other financial information, and compared to our peers, there was quite a few places that we actually look really good compared to our peers, our financial position, and some of those things. So some of the struggles that we think that we have, some of the things that we think that, man, I wish that could be better. Not that we don't want those things to be better, or we don't want to have those struggles, but compared to our peers, we're actually doing better than others. Does anybody else from the Finance Committee, you guys have anything that you want to add to that?
Well, the only thing I remember in here that kind of jumped out at me, if you're looking at, you look at the financials and the income piece, is, the salaries were up, you have to realize we paid extra COVID pay with COVID money, so there's some things in there that are skewed because we had additional expenses that were directly related to COVID that make those numbers go up where the income is not recognized. And so there's some things in there as you look at those income numbers, you have to realize that it's skewed because of COVID and those expenses. We tried to incur to spend those dollars. We got them spent, but we don't necessarily recognize any income from that, which could potentially show reverse next audit that we'll have more income and that we are going to recognize in the next audit year. So that's one thing I took away from that is
Because one of the PPP loans won't be recognized until.
so there was just some expenses there. It looks like, well, we had a huge number of expenses in the last year. Well, a lot of those were related to COVID, trying to spend those dollars to retain the COVID money we got in, so.
And that's, I mean, a really good point. You know, there were some of those ratios that you look at where they don't take that into play. And it might be an operating ratio where you show your operating income and your operating expenses, but your other revenue is not taken into account there. So it looks bad because your expenses are so much higher than they typically would have been, but that's offset by the other revenue, which is not taken into account for those ratios. So yeah, the COVID really skews some numbers. So that's why, I mean, if there's anything you have questions about that looks odd, I mean, don't hesitate to ask, because I know just in the talks about it then, a lot of it came down to just COVID and how you recognize the revenue and what year it might hit, depending on, like Bo said, we had one that was forgiven in the prior year and one forgiven this year. So it's going to kind of cross multiple years.
I do want to clear the air. There was something out there on social media. I don't partake in social media, but it was shared with me that said that we refuse to give our audit to the city of Alva. We just got it, and the city of Alva does get a copy of our audit every single year. We will clear the air that they will receive a copy of ours. We would no way in shape or form refuse to give the city of Alva an audit, but that was put out there on social media by some folks. So please, you hear that, you can correct them. So I would, any other questions?
I would note that the city council, certain members have been asking for this audit, and at least in part is the reason to go ahead and proceed at this meeting, since it was just received after the agenda was already posted.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and have a vote to accept the 2021 audit.
Make a motion to accept the 2021 audit as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Hannaford, a second by Jade Randalls, to accept the 2021 audit for the Alva Hospital Authority. Roll call vote, please.
Randalls.
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Gaspard.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
Okay. I do not have any other items of new business. Next month, maybe a little bit longer, we do have a budget that we will need to vote on. We'll also need to vote on officers and we'll need to bid somebody farewell.
We'll vote when we're ready to go.
Yeah, we made it.
Good point.
He shakes his head.
I vote now.
I know where you live.
All right, we're adjourned.